The original idea for an SUV was very simple. It was a vehicle that was built for utility, for use, to be a workhorse. It was something that had a decent engine, high ground clearance, maybe four-wheel drive, and you could take it virtually anywhere. You could store a lot of luggage. Of course, in the past 20 years, that definition has completely changed. SUVs are the hottest thing on the market today. We know that. And this is a rather extreme expression of what an SUV could be. It's the X4. It's available in 3 engine options, and we are driving it today to find out what it actually offers to customers. The X4 is perhaps a rather extreme interpretation of what an SUV should look like. Like I said earlier, they were supposed to be utility vehicles, they were supposed to be practical. This, I don't think it's any of that. This is a style statement. This is a car that has brand history. You know, the first generation X6 was the first sort of amalgamation of a coupe and an SUV. You can see by the sloping roofline. This is supposed to be a sporty coupe and an SUV at the same time. It does catch your eye. I don't like it, but the fact of the matter is that this design language, I didn't think much of the X6 when it was first launched, but it was a huge success worldwide. People wanted to make this style statement. In that sense of the word, the X4 works. It's got the huge double kidney grille at the front. But what's interesting is with the huge wheel arches and the relative design of the car, even on 19-inch wheels, it looks under-tired. It looks like it needs at least 20-inch or 21-inch wheels, which are slightly impractical in India. Also impractical is the fact that because of that sloping roofline, you have very limited headroom in the rear. But in actual sense of the word, it's a car that you can't ignore. It's a car that catches your eye. It's a car that makes a style statement. It's a car that makes you stand out. For good or for bad, that's for you to decide. But yeah, it's a car that stands out in your face and people love it for it. Now, I might not be a fan of the BMW X4's design. I think it's a little vain. I think it's a little too complicated. But there are some aspects of the car which are seriously likable. What I love first and foremost are the full black interiors. You know, they're a rarity in India. Everybody wants beige, and I hate beige. And this black interiors, red detailing, great seats, fantastic side support. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the fact of how the car's finished. There's actually real metal here in the switches. The way the car functions, the soft touch responses, I mean, you know, just the interfaces, and especially I think one of the highlights of the car has to be, rather one of the highlights of the BMW range has to be the iDrive system. The iDrive multimedia system is just over the past almost 20 years now, roughly. They've just evolved it to a level where it becomes very intuitive. You've got gesture responses, so I can turn up the volume of the stereo, turn down the volume of the stereo just by gestures. It's just so intuitive and so well done that makes you think that maybe that's a trick that a lot of other car makers are missing out on. That's one. Second is the powertrain of the car is absolutely sublime. The X4 in India is offered in 3 versions: 2-litre diesel, 3-litre inline 6 diesel, and what we are driving is the 30i, the 2-litre petrol turbocharged, 255 odd horsepower. But it's just the combination of the car, the engine and the gearbox, which is fantastic. I mean, it's a small engine, it's turbocharged, has a pretty high output, but there's virtually no turbo lag. There's not even a semblance of turbo lag. So whenever you want it, there's immediate power delivery. Helping that is the absolutely stunning 8-speed Zf Gearbox that BMW uses. I mean, like I was telling the editor through yesterday, that it's just the response of the gearbox, the downshifts, the upshifts, the shifts. It's so seamless that for once, this is one of the cars that I don't miss having a manual option in. It absolutely drives brilliant. But at the same time, there are problems and there are compromises with the X4. Like I said earlier, because of the design, because of the transmission tunnel, this is a strict 4-seater, and if you're a tall person sitting at the back, well, that's a different challenge altogether. Bigger problem for me is, despite being on 19-inch wheels, despite having a pretty high sidewall, 50 section sidewall, it's really stiff, and that's been a hallmark of all oddball SUVs that BMW's produced. Both the X6s, earlier generation, current generation, this generation X4. The ride is really stiff, and on smooth roads the X4 is absolutely planted, drives very well, is very smooth to take care of. But on bad roads, it's just absolutely back-breaking. And for me, that is a deal breaker. At 60 plus lakhs ex-showroom for any of the versions of the X4, the problem with the car is that you have to be really focused on what it offers as a design concept, as a statement, or rather as a style statement. Because if you're going to spend that kind of money, actually you're going to spend more money than what an X3 is sold for, or a Volvo XC60 or an Audi Q5 is sold for, is that you get lesser headroom, you get lesser practicality, you get a very stiff ride. Of course, you do get a very good engine powertrain package, probably the best in class package. You get some lovely interiors that I love, but it's a difficult compromise to sort of justify. So unless you've got a very strong design streak, unless you've got to make a really strong design statement, I would think I would prefer an X3 or a Volvo XC60 or an Audi Q5 over the X4, because the X4 otherwise it's great in small parts of the car, but as a whole, I'm not really a big fan.